What is going on, guys? My name is The Rose, and with my co-host Cypher, we are returning to the Game Corner podcast after a 2-week hiatus. Last week was Easter, so I hope you guys had a wonderful Passover weekend and Easter weekend. Hope you guys had a lot of fun on April Fool's Day as well. And the week before that, we just could not connect. Shit happened, shit came up, and, we were just a little bit busy. But we are back today for part 1 of episode 12. We got some news that broke the internet today with Spyro the Dragon. The Spyro Reignited Trilogy has been announced. It also got a release date as well. I also have news on Rainbow Six Siege. We're going to talk about how they're gonna start controlling the toxicity in their game. Sounds like they're going to take a page out of Overwatch's book. I'm also going to talk about a little bit of the YouTube shooting that happened just a few days ago, and what I think about it, and quite honestly, kind of sucks that it happened. We're also going to bitch about Noctis in Tekken 7, because I think he's a cunt. I also have an article as to how he ended up getting into the game, so we're going to learn about that as well. All this and more in the Game Corner podcast. So how was your week, man?
Well, I guess we'll talk about the weeks that we took off, too. So, my week's been kind of off and on. Like, I'm trying to do my taxes, but it seems like everything keeps screwing me. Like, where I had issues with the university claiming that I owed them money that haven't been resolved yet. They recently shut down my IT services, which means that I have to actually go get, like, my physical T4s, which is like the Canadian, like, here's your income for the year. I don't know what it is in America, but, so yeah, I either have to go to HR and request them, or I have to email them, so I emailed them. And then tomorrow I'll be going down to financial services to finally give them peace of my mind. So I was kind of hoping that, like, based on what I had told them, that the issue would just go away, but it has not gone away. Let me think here. I worked on 2 games that released in the past 2 weeks, or in the past week, which is partially why we didn't have a podcast 2 weeks ago.
And I was partially involved in one of them.
Yeah, you did the credits for Cautionary Tale by Team Watercress, right?
Well, I did 3 credits videos. One was for Spirits, one was for Let Go, and one was for Flood.
Oh, yeah, because, like, but the overall project is packaged as Cautionary Tale. It's just 3 different stories.
Okay, yeah. So that's, yeah. Okay, so then that is the one I worked on.
And then I also worked on a game called Arcadia by Somnova Studios. And theirs is currently ranked, I believe, 2nd of the recent lists on visual novels in itch.io.
Now, how many got uploaded recently? So I want to say that sounds pretty good. To be,
I don't know how recent that
second.
is. Well, we're about to find out, so let's look at visual novels.
I mean, if you're ranked 2nd on the entire website, you're pretty fucking good.
Yeah, so if you look at recent, if you look at popularity, it doesn't say how recent these are, but it does. We are ranked number 2, and then Cautionary Tale is ranked 4.
Wow, so both projects in the top 5. That's pretty good.
Yeah, which is pretty great. I'm really happy with that. I'm curious, though, if I look at top sellers, because that's based on popularity. If I look at top sellers, and neither of them are in the top 10, and if I look at, because, I mean, they both just dropped, and if I look at top rated, I assume neither of them are going to be there, because they just dropped. Yeah, so, like, if you look at popularity, they are both there, which is great. But anyway, yeah, so that was kind of a big ordeal, and then recently I've been job hunting, so I'm still unemployed. My newspaper contract expires on the 30th, which means, at least for now, I've got time to just kind of sit and dick around.
That's good.
Yeah, I went to see Pacific Rim last week as well. And I also bought a couple of games recently, so I've been playing through Ni no Kuni 2. Revenant Kingdom. I also bought Attack on Titan 2, which dropped in, I believe, February. And Dot Hack GU Last Recode, which I haven't even put in yet. On top of playing through all those Atelier games that I got at the beginning of the month. So,
So it sounds like recreational-wise, you've been keeping yourself busy.
I've been basically keeping myself busy between bouts of working like a crazy person. So, like, if I have, a day of downtime where it's like, oh, I gotta wait for this guy to get back to me so that I can edit his crap. It's like, oh, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna sit down and play Ni no Kuni for 10 hours because I have no self-control and I hate myself.
Well, my week, as you know, last week I saw Ready Player One, which we're gonna discuss at some point during episode 12. I'm just gonna say this for now. I thought it was a really good movie.
Yeah.
So then last week, I went to Pennsylvania. Left on Friday to my dad's house for Easter weekend. And I came back Sunday night. And this kind of sucks because the day I left for Pennsylvania, Joe Cronin actually came down to my area.
Oh, really? That's cool.
He was only about 10 minutes away from where I live, dude.
Oh, dude, that sucks.
And I wish I could have hung out with him, but yeah, he put on his Monetize This show out here in Jersey and everything, man. It was fucking great.
Well, it sounds pretty rad.
So Saturday, we did our Easter dinner on Saturday because we leave my dad's house like mid-afternoon on Sunday, so we wouldn't have had time to do Easter Sunday dinner.
Yeah.
I had some family over, my cousin and her daughter, which I guess would be my second cousin. Her boyfriend, my auntie, or my aunt, however you pronounce it. I would say aunt. My dad's sister, pretty much. They came over. My grandparents were in South Carolina on vacation, so they didn't come by. Had ham, London broil, and all the fixings that go with a family meal. Went home Sunday, and then I just been sitting here being a fucking bum all week. Literally didn't do much of anything productive. However, I am hyped for WrestleMania this weekend. So, Sunday, that's what I'll be doing for
nice.
The majority of the day. Speaking of Sunday, I'll say it now. I am going to be holding a WWE 2K18 WrestleMania simulation stream before the actual event. So I'll be putting on all of the matches that I would be able to simulate with the game, letting the CPU, go at it with each other. And I want to see how many matches the CPU actually predicts in that game.
Okay, that's pretty interesting.
Now, there are 13 confirmed matches, with one unconfirmed match being The Undertaker versus John Cena. That might happen. It's not officially confirmed. So I'm going to put on that match just in case it does happen. But there are 4 matches that I cannot simulate that are booked for this weekend. That being 2 massive battle royals with like 20 people each. One match that has Ronda Rousey in it because she's not in the game. And another match, tag team title match, because one of the team's partners has not been confirmed. So I can't put on a match if I don't know who's in it. So out of the 14 matches that are going to be on the show, I'm going to put on at least 9 of them. So I'm going to simulate 9 of those matches. It's probably going to be about a 3-4 hour stream, followed by a 7-hour pay-per-view. So I'm gonna have my day full on Sunday. I'm also going to start streaming Gears of War Marathon this week. That is the game marathon that won my Twitter poll last week. So by the time you see this, I would have already started it. Gonna start it probably Friday night. So other than that, I've really done nothing. I really don't have much to talk about, other than the fact that I did get a chance to try out Noctis in Tekken 7, and I also got my ass beat by him And I'm going to talk about that during the actual podcast segment because I think he's a piece of shit.
Okay.
Overall. If you don't have anything else, I don't really have anything else other than the fact that I got this new hat that I'm wearing. This came from the MLB 18 The Show All Rise edition that I had mentioned a few episodes back that I had pre-ordered for $100. You can see an unboxing of that video on my channel. I did it 2 weeks ago. So you can check that out if you're interested. And with that being said, let's hit the intro and start up the podcast. So I guess the first thing I want to talk about, just to get out of the way, is Tekken 7 and Noctis. We actually have a news article to go along with this. So I got to play Noctis in Tekken 7. I did it on the Friday night after he came out, so it was like March 23rd, I think I did it. And I think he plays all right, but I think he's a bitch because some of his attacks he can use different swords. So like one of his attacks or a couple of his attacks, he has a long sword which gives him the longest reach possible in the game for a strike, for a striking distance.
Okay.
Then he has a parry move where if you time it correctly, you can parry the start to any fucking combo. And you can also be given a few frames where your opponent is vulnerable and you can start beating him up.
Yeah, Geese has something similar.
And would you believe that Bamco gave Noctis a fucking auto combo?
Oh, for fuck's sake, really?
Yeah, it's all you do is mash triangle and it's an automatic 6-hit combo.
That's bullshit.
And there is a way you can chain that combo to make it an 8-hit combo, because if you hold up and right at the same time, so like directional, like upright and triangle, then that is a 2-hit move on its own. It pops them up off the ground, and then you could just go right into that auto combo for an 8-hit combo instead of a 6-hitter.
Yes.
And it kind of sucks. He has moves where you can teleport, like he'll teleport, and you could either strike. You could either go in for a strike or you can dodge, like an oncoming attack with your teleport.
Yeah.
And that's like, you could never predict almost when that's going to happen. He also has this move where he like throws a flammable. I want to say it's like a Molotov or whatever.
Okay.
So he's got that as well. So Noctis, he's an interesting character. But let me tell you, man, when I played that stream, it should be on Twitch still. I'm going to actually upload it to YouTube because I actually forgot about it. But I fought, I think, what did I play? 10 matches. And 7 of them were against Noctis players. And against those Noctis players, I lost all but one.
So, out of curiosity, do you think that that the sheer number of Noctis players is because he's easy to pick up and play, or do you think that it's because he's new?
I think it's both.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I also think it's because of his moveset, to be honest. Because like I said, some of his attacks with his longsword gives him the longest striking reach in the game. His parry move, which, like I said, if you time it right, you can fucking parry against anything. And then he's got that auto combo and that teleporting shit that he can do.
Yeah, like, I think what they probably... I kind of think I understand their mentality here without getting into the news article that we're about to read, but I think their mentality is like, oh, we put Noctis in Tekken, therefore we have to make Tekken accessible to people who don't usually play fighting games.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that.
But that also, like, we've kind of seen this mentality with Dragon Ball and stuff like that, where it's like, that mentality is all well and good, but it also kind of fucks with the balance.
Yeah, it seems like within the last year or two, I guess you could throw this year in there too, seems like companies are just making fighting games easier to play. And with that being said, I think they're making them a little less fun and, a little less challenging and a little less needy to actually learn your characters.
Yeah, like I as a personal anecdote, I went out and bought Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 a couple of weeks ago. And when I went out and bought it from my local GameStop, I brought it home. And, Ultimate Marvel 3 is like, what, 6 years old now? It's pretty old.
It's pretty old. I think it's actually older than that.
Actually, it's 7 or 8 years old, last I checked.
Right.
Because I remember I was still, I think, in 8th grade when I got it for Christmas. But anyway. Yeah, so what I was going to say about that is that Ultimate Marvel 3 is an older game, and I've noticed that its arcade ladder is a lot harder than, say, the arcade ladder in Dragon Ball. The Dragon Ball's hardest arcade ladder is still quite hard.
Right.
But the Ultimate Marvel 3 arcade ladder on normal is like, you need to have a very good understanding of how those systems work.
Right.
On top of the fact that, like, I think part of the difficulty to Ultimate Marvel 3 is that I was playing online recently, and I did have some connectivity issues, but I think that's just my internet. Or possibly my opponent's internet. But what I've noticed is that Ultimate Marvel 3 has been out for so long that people have mastered Ultimate Marvel 3, whereas Dragon Ball has been out for such a short period of time, and Dragon Ball is so accessible that, like, when you play online, there's a 40% chance that you're probably going to be playing against somebody who has never played a fighting game before.
Right, and there's still a chance you're going to lose because of all the bullshit that's in it.
Yeah,
the way
which is unfortunate, because, like, they're... The closest, the best way to mitigate that is to, at least as best you can, is when you go into the online lobby in Dragon Ball, you connect and you say, like, match completion percentage needs to be high, because that means that people aren't going to rage quit, and their skill level needs to be about the same or higher. Because after a certain point of playing that game, it is impossible to auto-combo your way to victory.
Right.
At least with enough consistency to get to a high level of play.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm coming down from a cold, but... yeah, so I feel like Tekken's a pretty hardcore fighting game. Or at least it used to be, I don't know. How I would even describe T7, to be honest. But
with the exception of Noctis, I think it's as good as what you would expect from a Tekken game.
Whereas, like, I feel like, okay, Tekken 7 has this really bad problem with guest characters, where... Have you ever played Soul Calibur 2?
Dude, I fucking love Soul Calibur 2.
Okay, good, because you're going to know what I'm talking about. Which version of it did you own?
PS2.
Oh, okay, so you had Heihachi. So, the thing about Soul Calibur 2 is that all of the guest characters in Soul Calibur 2, I think it was like Spawn for the Xbox, Link for the GameCube, and Heihachi for the PS2. Not only did it make some sense to have them in the game, but they also worked mechanically and from a balancing standpoint. Where it's like, Link is balanced, but he's fun to play, which is why if you play the GameCube version of that, you're more likely to if you play it with your friends, you're more likely to see people pick Link than any other character because he's fun to play. Right. It's not a statement that Link is easy to play, but he's fun. Whereas in like Tekken 7 or Dragon Ball, you tend to see people go with I don't want to say easy picks, but well, I guess in Tekken 7 it's easy picks because guest characters in Tekken 7 break the game.
Although I've never seen anyone play Geese Howard online yet. Or that many. I haven't seen many Akumas either.
I've seen a few Akumas, but I haven't seen many other Geese Howards. Because when I was playing it, I was playing as Geese Howard.
Right.
But like, I feel like so did they alter the game's mechanics at all for Noctis, or like they did with Geese and Akuma?
As far as I could tell, no, because he doesn't have like a super meter type thing like like Geese and Akuma have.
Okay.
Aliza also has it as well.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I think Noctis is kind of fun to play, but if you're going up against him, you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah,
unless
that
you're
makes
like
sense.
really good at the game.
That's fair.
And speaking of Noctis, we have an article here.
Yeah, it's the title is How Final Fantasy XV's Noctis, How Final Fantasy 15 protagonist Noctis joined the fight of Tekken 7 as a guest character.
And there's also a video on this too, if you don't want to listen to us talk about it.
Yeah, so basically what it states here is that when Final Fantasy 15 was released, Bandai Namco, actually it was Katsuhiro Harada, and it says here that they looked at the scope of the game, and they thought that it says so these ideas about Final Fantasy and Tekken on the PS1 just so happened to come up again. We strongly felt that it would be really sensational to do it now since no one is expecting it, and in a positive sense, doing so would allow Tekken to be bathed in the spotlight, which would be a breath of fresh air. And so apparently they looked at the Final Fantasy 15 character images, and they liked all of them, but they thought that if they were to take Noctis, release him from being in an RPG, and make him in a fighting game, they were kind of confident that they were the only people who could pull that off, which I actually kind of agree with.
Although they made him kind of broken.
Yeah, I think they were talking more from like an artistic standpoint, because I couldn't see Noctis in Soul Calibur, for example. Like, I could and I couldn't, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, he uses a lot of different weaponry, but if he was to be in, say, Soul Calibur, I don't think he really fits the style of that game because he's a modern character.
Right.
But anyway, he said that he was able to meet up with Mr. Tabata in 2017, to discuss everything. So, really, Harada's initial interest was more in Tabata than in Final Fantasy 15. So they talked about how Square Enix and the team had approached making the game, and they already had this kind of history together, and things started building up from there until Noctis released. And apparently there's actually an interview series for behind the scenes of Noctis in T7.
Now, I will say this. Out of everybody they possibly could have gotten, I'm glad they didn't go with niche characters or OP characters. They could have taken anybody from Dragon Ball, specifically Goku or Vegeta, because they also make the Dragon Ball games. They could have maybe used fucking Naruto or somebody, because they also make those games. But
could you imagine, though, like, Devil Kazuya versus Naruto, how fucking stupid that would be?
Exactly, and that's why I'm glad they actually didn't go that route. I mean, as it is...
seriously wants to beat the shit out of people, I mean,
as it is, not many characters use Ki Blasts.
Yeah, it's mostly just,
Mostly just the
guest characters, right?
Yeah, like, well, I mean... I guess you could say Devil Jin and Devil Kazuya because they have that key laser shit they can fire from their eyes.
Oh, yeah, fuck the laser. And same with, you can't play as Devil Kazumi, can you? I think she's only a boss character.
Yeah, Phoenix Kazumi? No, you can't play as her.
No, that's what I thought.
And then you have Eliza. She has those fucking, they look like Reppuken, but they're not they're not as strong, and they do look a little different. Yeah,
because the thing about the Reppuken is if you use a double, the first hit generally launches the character and then the second hit impacts. So if they try to rush in or jump over it, they may not succeed. But what I was going to say is that, like, I will admit that I'm definitely glad that it was Noctis and not somebody ridiculous.
Right.
But at the same time, it's kind of like, from what you're telling me, 'cause I haven't seen footage of him because I really couldn't give a shit. From what you're telling me, it seems like they didn't really balance him, even if he is a good fit for Tekken 7 as a whole.
I mean, I think it's not that they didn't balance him, because he doesn't do he doesn't do more than average damage.
Okay.
I think it's just his moveset is a little more.
Yeah, that's a balancing thing too.
Well, yeah, I guess you could say that. But on the balancing side, I think it's more of his moveset because of his reach and his ability to block damn near anything.
Okay.
And his ability to dodge damn near anything if you time your inputs right. And he also is given a rage arts and a rage drive, just like every other character. So there's that as well. And Noctis's rage arts deals about, I would say, close to 40% damage.
Okay, that's about average, isn't it?
Yeah, it's close to the standard.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more powerful than some, because some aren't as strong. But, yeah, so who would you think, like, if they didn't go with Noctis? If they didn't go with Noctis, who else do you think would have been, like, a decent fit as a guest character?
From Final Fantasy in particular, I think that would have to be, like... It depends on where you want to go with it, because, like, you can go back to, like, Final Fantasy VI and get, like, Sabin. And have him do MMA and crazy shit like that. But if you're talking, like, modern Final Fantasy, then it has to be Snow from Final Fantasy 13.
Right, I think that would have made sense, because he's a brawler.
Because he's the only character that uses just his bare hands. Like, I don't think of Tekken as a weapon fighting series. That's what Soul Calibur is for.
Right.
Like, the only characters in Tekken that I can even think of having weapons are, like, Yoshimitsu and technically Elisa.
Right, because they're chainsaws.
Yeah. Like the head bomb and shit. But, yeah, those are the only two characters that really stick out to me as, like, these are characters that use weaponry.
Right.
And so I feel like, I don't want to say that it's unbalanced, but it seems like there's something almost unfair about having a character in Tekken that has weapons.
And don't forget, Yoshimitsu is also in Soul Calibur as well, so...
Oh, yeah, that's true, that's true.
Although I think he fits better in Soul Calibur than Tekken because of his weapon style. But,
Yeah, Yoshimitsu in Soul Calibur is, like, one of the weirdest characters to fight, and I love it. It's great.
Right?
Because he's so fucking all over the place. Like, it's the same with Voldo in Soul Calibur, but...
Yeah,
so... And, I guess this isn't really a discussion about Soul Calibur, but...
No, we'll save that for when Soul Calibur 6 comes out.
Yeah, I might get it.
I'm definitely
I think Snow would have probably been the best choice for Tekken 7.
I have to agree, pretty much. Now, I'm kind of biased when I say I would agree, because I don't know, Final Fantasy as well as you do, because I didn't jump into it until 13.
Yeah, that's fair.
But,
honestly, there's a lot of characters that I would consider, like, Tifa from 7's pretty obvious, because, like, she's kind of ubiquitous, and she has never once picked up a weapon. Zell from 8 fights with his bare hands. I don't think there's anybody in 9 that does. And then, like, 7 from 6 and Yang from 4 are the only other ones that come to mind other than Snow. And Snow was the most recent one. I don't know how popular he is, but he's the most recent one.
So, let's stay on the topic of fighting games.
Alright.
We have King of Fighters 14 reveals Blue Mary as the next DLC character, as she releases next week on April 12th.
Yeah, so it says here, SNK revealed that King of Fighters 14's next DLC character is the Commando Sambo fighter Blue Mary, who will join the roster on April 12th, together with Oswald, Hydern, and Najd. And then there's, like, a little moveset, and apparently there's actually some really nice art here of all 4 of these DLC characters posing together, which is really nice.
Right.
And in their press release, they said that, let's see here, there's a big version 3.0 update coming in the coming days for KOF 14. Blue Mary is the final DLC character to be added in this version. And apparently she was one of the most requested characters by fans, which, so, Blue Mary is a character that has been in both, I think she's in every Fatal Fury and has been in most, if not all, of the King of Fighters games up to this point. Personally, I don't play as her that often. I don't really care, because, like, Terry Bogard is my G. Let's see. Oh, she made her original debut in Fatal Fury 3 and quickly became one of the most popular characters. Her KOF debut was in KOF 97. And now it's... looks like... Okay, so they've made a special team with... looks like her, Billy Kane, and I'm not sure who that third character is. So in this interview, they also said that her moveset includes a lot of grapples, which you can see in the trailer that they tried to faithfully recreate, and that she was a challenge to design because of how difficult those moves are to animate. When they were designing Fatal Fury 3, not many people on the team knew information about the martial art in question, which is Sambo, a Russian martial art. Or Soviet. It's actually Soviet. So it says here that one of the designers, working on Blue Mirror, Yoichiro Soeda actually used another designer. It's the one they interviewed here as a training dummy to show some of the moves that he had in mind, which I find absolutely hilarious. But so apparently they really enjoyed the difficulties that came with this and making like a dynamic camera for this character. There will also be 3 more additions to the roster. Oh wait, no, sorry, that's for this update.
And Notch,
so let's see the new version.
Notch was a fan-made character, I believe.
Yeah, and Hyder, I believe, was in KOF 2000. And I know Oswald is quite old as well. But as far as I know, but I'm not like I like SNK games, but I'm not super into SNK games. Like
same.
I love the shit out of like Garo and the old KOFs and stuff, but I haven't really played all of them. But anyway, so it says here that the new version 3.0 update will also include character balance adjustments, which, having played KOF 14, I don't dislike KOF 14, but like it feels kind of different from what I'm used to from SNK. So I've found that I'm not playing it as much as I probably would otherwise. So I hope these balance updates do that.
And this isn't the last time we're going to talk about fighting games in this episode. We have 3 more fighting games we're going to cover this weekend. I almost thought about covering them all in one episode, but I thought it would have been too much fighting game discussion.
Yeah. So what's the next thing you wanted to talk about?
Next, let's do the Rainbow Six.
Okay.
Let's talk about that.
So, a few weeks ago you talked about how Overwatch was doing something similar where it was trying to crack down on toxicity.
Right. I actually talked about that way back in episode 4, dude.
Yeah, so apparently Ubisoft has announced that it will be cracking down on toxicity in Rainbow Six Siege. They claimed that our end goal is to track negative player behavior, manage that poor behavior, and eventually implement features that will encourage players to improve their behavior. This was in a release on their blog. So it says here that it's going to implement 3 chat improvements. Firstly, you can mute any player in a match individually.
Which should have been in the game from the start.
Which, honestly, yeah, that should have been in the game from the start. The second is an automatic filter that will censor certain words and notify the player that they're using offensive language. I agree with that, but I think it also depends on what words they're censoring.
Right.
And then the third feature involves monitoring how often players use certain slurs and applying bans to players who use them frequently. Lengths include 2, 7, and 15 days, as well as a permanent ban if the offense is dire enough. What words should players watch out for? So then they stated that any language or content deemed illegal, dangerous, threatening, abusive, obscene, vulgar, defamatory, hateful, racist, sexist, ethically offensive, or constituting harassment is forbidden. Ubisoft also acknowledged that team killing is an issue and is working on an improved way to deal with it, tracking those who've managed to evade bans before. They basically said that they cannot provide details on this because it will lead to exploitation.
Right.
They also plan to tackle the issues surrounding the potential for other negative player experiences and will share any further changes with players prior to their implementation. Now, I really think that what needs to be done for me to have a concrete opinion on this is that we need to know exactly which words are banned because, okay, there's a long list here. Like, it's not like a list of words, but there's a long list of categories here where it's like
racist, hate speech.
Yeah, like racist offensive. Is fine. I don't care. I don't think that people should be going around calling each other the N-word on the internet. I really don't.
No.
However, when they say things like illegal, there's really no such thing as illegal language.
Right.
Like there are no words that I would consider to be illegal, unless they mean illegal phrases. Like if I say to you, like, "Man, do you want to go buy some drugs at the corner store? There's a guy there that sells really good pot." Like, yeah, that's illegal. But anyway, so I think that a lot of these are things where it's like you have to take the language and the context. Like only a few of these are blanketedly awful. Like hate, like racist, sexist, I don't even understand what they mean by ethically offensive.
Basically, SJW speech, probably. Anything someone will find offensive.
It feels like, for lack of a better word, they're trying to push a political agenda. Which, like, I don't think that there should be a filter for these things other than, like I said, I don't think you should be allowed to use racial slurs in chats.
Right.
I do think that, like, they should be bleeped out or blurred out or something, and the offending player is told, like, hey, that's offensive, don't try to say that. Or if they say so in voice, then, like, somebody will obviously report them.
Right.
But I think that it's up to the community to decide your fate, not Ubisoft themselves.
Also, with this, how do you define what is offensive language? Because
that's why I'm saying that what needs to happen is Ubisoft needs to make these rules and be the arbitrator of them. But, like, the community's the one who has to report it, where it's like, if let's say you and I are having a discussion about, like, oh, this person is a pussy. It's like, how is that? If it's you and I, and you take offense to that, then you can report that to Ubisoft, and Ubisoft will do what it wants with it. But if I say something that would be considered to be in any of these other categories, it's basically the same thing. It's like you report it to Ubisoft. Ubisoft should be the one to deal with it.
Right.
Because Ubisoft makes the rules, and therefore Ubisoft is the one with the power to enforce them. But that does not mean that Ubisoft should filter out a list of words that they feel are toxic.
Right, because let's say 5 people find something offensive, a word or a phrase offensive, but yet 2,000 other people won't find that same word or phrase offensive.
I think context has a lot to do with it too. Like, if you and I are playing Rainbow Six Siege and they've acknowledged that team killing is a problem, right?
Well, that's a problem in just about any game.
And if I'm like, man, you're such an asshole, why do you keep team killing me? It's like, that's a lot different than me just being like, fuck you, you fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Because I think context matters. On top of, like, language is always changing. Like, what most people would consider so obscene that they would never say in public 50 years ago is now common language. Like, I don't know if it's because I come from, an Irish family, but it's like, the word shit is said in casual conversation in my family, to the point where my nan used to jokingly be like, hey, eat shit, and I'd be like, yeah, you too. Right? Like, so language is always changing, and culture and context mean a lot when it comes to language. So, like, for them to put, like, what I would consider to be almost a blanketed ban on these words, it's really down to, like, I'm against it, but I have to see what words they're going to use, because I think the player base has a right to know what they can and cannot say.
I just hope that, people don't abuse this fucking report system and try to get anybody banned just to be a troll cunt or just because they don't like somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I know for a fact that there's also, like, I think that part of it is allowing players to mute other players is great and all, and I think that allowing players to report other players is great too, but this filtered system is automated, from what I can tell from this article. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I would assume it is. But it's like, if you've used a banned word enough times, it's like, who cares? Nobody's seen it. Right? If they're going to filter it out. If it's more I think the issue here is more one of, like, if you keep saying it in voice and somebody hears you and they're offended, then they can report you. That's what should happen. Or, if you say something that isn't filtered out, but somebody takes great offense to it or is, like, personally hurt, I don't personally care about your feelings. I'm going to tell you that now.
Right.
Like, if I call you a pussy and you start crying, I'm going to laugh at you.
Right, because you know what? Not everything is offensive to everybody.
No.
Some people just don't have a fucking backbone.
Exactly.
Now, I will say this, though. At least they're not going to the lengths, like Overwatch and Twitch, where they're not going to go around and they're not going to stalk your fucking YouTube channel or your YouTube comments. They're not going to stalk your fucking Twitter or anything like that to monitor your toxicity outside of the game itself. Which I still don't believe Twitch and Overwatch should be doing that.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea for the most part, but like you said, it has to be balanced and it has to be, well contained.
Yeah.
So before we get into the next thing, I want to talk about the YouTube shooting. I don't know, have you heard about it? What happened on Tuesday?
You briefly mentioned it, but I haven't looked into it myself.
So Tuesday afternoon, early afternoon, on the West Coast, it was a little after 12 p.m. There was a female shooter who shot up the YouTube headquarters in San Bruno, California. Now
Okay.
the reports kind of vary a little bit. Game Informer reported that she wounded 4 people, killed 1, and then killed herself. She did definitely kill herself. That is a fact.
Okay.
Other reports, other websites like CNN, ABC, CBS News, they're all saying that she only wounded 3 people, didn't kill anybody, and killed herself. So,
Huh.
we don't know exactly what is true there.
Okay.
I also heard that she took 3 hostages, but then she released the hostages before she killed herself.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, this all had to do with this girl, and I'm not going to mention her name because of, privacy to her family or anything.
Yeah.
She put out a YouTube video talking about how, she was becoming depressed, about the YouTube, policy changes and the demonetization shit. Her videos were being demonetized, and she thought that she was being discriminated against and some shit. And she just fucking snapped and shot up the fucking building on Tuesday.
Let's see.
Now, some people are actually, like, kind of taking her side a little bit, like, saying how they feel bad for her because she was feeling depressed and all this shit.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't go out of your way to do what you did. I mean...
No, I agree. I think that, like, there's a difference between having... Okay. I don't really know how I would verbalize this, but I'm going to try my best. So, the thing is that you need to you need to empathize with how someone feels without necessarily condoning what they did.
Right.
Like, it's like, I understand that you're upset that YouTube demonetized you. I understand that you feel discriminated against, even if I don't necessarily agree that that is the case. You know what? I even feel bad for the fact that you snapped and you killed 3 people. Or you killed a person and, wounded 3 or 4, or however many it was, like, based on the statistics. However, that doesn't mean that I think the shooting is justified, nor does that mean that I think the shooting was a good idea.
No, and, acts like that, is never a good time.
No.
And we feel for the families of the
Yeah.
affected victims,
Mm-hmm.
especially to the family of the person who may or may not have lost their life. Man, I mean, then you got that Brianna Wu fucking woman who literally less than an hour later after this happens and the news broke, you can find her tweet on Twitter. She says, "I will not offer #thoughts and prayers to the victims of the @YouTube shooting," because she did tag YouTube in her tweet as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, "I have a 3-point plan on gun safety or gun control." And then she continues to go into her fucking 3-point plan and what she would make mandatory for people who want to carry guns.
I haven't read her 3-point plan. I honestly probably don't give a shit. What I am gonna say is this, right? I'm not terribly conservative, but I find it entertaining to watch people get verbally destroyed. So I watch a lot of Ben Shapiro, even though I don't necessarily agree with his political beliefs. So Ben Shapiro was on Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan was attacking how, like, this was in the wake of the Sandy Hook shooting, and Piers Morgan was discussing gun control rates, and Ben Shapiro accuses him of trying to push a political agenda by quote, standing on the graves of the children and teachers that were affected by this shooting. Brianna Wu, although this is it's not an event in the same scale, is doing the same goddamn thing, and I find it repulsive.
And the fact that she didn't wait a day or 2 days, she literally waited like 30 minutes, if that.
I think that, it's one thing to say. What really pissed me off about this tweet, from what you've told me, is that I will not be offering up my thoughts or prayers or any of that nonsense. And to me personally, I get it. From a utilitarian standpoint, I understand, right? Because, offering up your thoughts and prayers and condolences isn't going to bring somebody back from the dead. And It's not going to make somebody who was wounded in an attack or a shooting better.
But
However,
it's still the respectful thing to do.
It's a respectful thing to do. Right? I get it. I get what she's trying to say. I just think the way she said it was very inappropriate, and the fact that she not only said that, but then decided to push her political agenda is even worse. It's even more reprehensible.
Right. And I don't know if she deleted her tweet, because what I saw was a screenshot of her tweet.
I fucking hope so. I'm gonna check her Twitter right now.
Yeah, it was posted Tuesday afternoon. But yeah, I saw a screenshot of her tweet. So maybe she deleted it by now. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I just think the way she came off as, well, it didn't happen to me, so fuck you, pretty much. Mm-hmm. But yet, if it ever does happen to her, she would want the same sentiments that she should have given, regardless. Which I think is a fucking scumbag way to look at it as well.
Tuesday was what, the 2nd?
Tuesday was the 3rd.
Okay. I'm still scrolling through it. Man, this woman tweets a lot.
I don't remember who I saw who screen capped it.
So here's the exact tweets, right? So when it happened, she said, "There's an active shooting happening at YouTube, #GunSafety." And she mentioned YouTube. Then afterwards, she said, "I won't send #thoughts and prayers to
That's
YouTube
the
employees. I have a 3-point plan to address our gun crisis. A, if you own a gun, I will mandate that you carry liability insurance. B, I support a broad, outright ban on all assault weapons. C, I will mandate gun safety classes." Then, after this, she said, "Fact, you know what happens when you tell a crowd you're going to ban all assault weapons? They cheer wildly, and then they write you checks. The American people have had enough. They want this gun violence to end." And this was in response to someone who tweeted at her, "Have fun losing your election." Now, this keeps going. This is pretty hot political gossip. So she said that inevitably when a mass shooting happens, the NRA, and she mentioned the NRA, and their shills pull out their shopworm bag of cheap silencing tactics. Now is not the time, they bellow, as if they had any respect for the dead. I'm not intimidated, and neither are the American people. We won't be silenced. Now, I find it... there's another tweet here, but I'm just gonna... Okay.
Just bottom line it here.
I studied politics, right? I studied politics in university. I did not get my degree because I dropped out. But I have enough political knowledge to know that what she's doing is a fallacious argument. She's distracting from the problem, and she's also distracting from the fact that she's a fucking hypocrite. In that, not only does she outright disregard the victims in this situation, and, the people who are affected, but pushing her political agenda and then outright saying that, quote, as if they had any respect for the dead. It's like, who the fuck... What kind of sad sack, piece of shit human being are you to not recognize that you are also being immensely disrespectful? I'm sure the NRA does that. I don't care. I really don't give a shit about U.S. politics anymore. But, that's just... So, anyway, then, she said, "I don't give a damn if the gun extremists don't want to hear it. We have a gun violence epidemic in this country, and we will take action, including a very broad ban on assault weapons. We are not afraid of you. You're the emperor with no clothes." You know what she kind of reminds me of?
A piece of shit.
Besides that, besides the turd that I dropped in my toilet this morning, she reminds me of, like, okay, you know how conservative people paint liberal people? That's kind of what she seems like. She reminds me of, like, Lisa Simpson in later seasons of The Simpsons. And apparently somebody reported her.
Good. That tweet was bullshit.
I know, and it says here that, but here's the thing, right? It says here, so apparently, quote, gun extremists, which, Jesus fucking Christ, woman. It's like listening to a retarded parrot that only knows 3 phrases. Right, the gun extremists! Like, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm sorry, this stuff really angers me. But she said, this is for the best. Gun extremists reported this tweet for advocating policy answers for gun violence. Quote, we have investigated the reported content and could not identify any violations of the Twitter rules. Now, oh my fucking god. So apparently then she has a photo of her with an Infinity Gauntlet from the Avengers.
Oh, give me a fucking break.
So, like, God, okay, I'm gonna say this now. I have nothing against liberalism. We're not a political show, but I'm gonna say this now. I have literally nothing against liberalism. I have nothing against conservatism either, and I have literally nothing against any political ideology up until a certain point, where it's like, the only political ideologies that I think are genuinely evil are, like, straight up Nazism and straight up communism, like actual, like, Soviet communism. Now, what I was going to say is that, however, I will actively condemn people who are retarded. Like, this level of moronic behavior should not be allowed to fly on any platform.
I'm just gonna post this here for reference later because I need it.
Yeah, I'm not saying to censor her, but I am saying, like, I feel like somebody needs to sit this woman down and, like, actually debate with her and I wouldn't say try to change her mind, but, like, I'm curious as to why she thinks that, like, it's almost like an Alex Jones conspiracy. It's like, the gun extremists all. Like, God.
Right,
I don't even know how to respond to this. Like, it's like, you ever see something that's so dumb that you're like, yeah, I already talked about this. You ever see something that's so dumb that you just don't know how to respond to it?
Yes.
That's how I feel about this. It's like, I kind of get her point, but I don't think she did it appropriately.
No, absolutely not. And that's what I was getting at, you did kind of go off on that, tangent, that derailing tangent,
yeah.
But, so yeah, just to rein it in and bottom line this little thing out, the situation, she was definitely in the wrong, and I'm glad that, nobody that runs YouTube got hurt or any way.
Yeah.
YouTube is still running, well and good. I do think YouTube actually has a pretty decent Twitter support team, because they actually helped me after I did my Shadowverse stream. Was it last week? I contacted them because for some reason they only rendered the last 5.5 minutes of a 3-hour stream.
Yeah. And
they knew what video I was talking about, and they fixed it without me even having to give them any additional information. After I tweeted at Team YouTube asking what the fuck was the problem. Now, they didn't tell me what the issue was, but they fixed it, and that's all I care about.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. It really bothers me when stuff like this becomes kind of a stomping ground for people like that. Like, I understand wanting gun control, and I think that, there's an appropriate way to do it, and there's an inappropriate way to do it, and that is an inappropriate way to do it. Like if she had said like what happened at YouTube was unacceptable. We need better gun control. Here's how we do it. I may not necessarily agree with that, but I think that's a better way to communicate what she's trying to say.
Right. And
yeah.
So let's get back into our gaming news now that, I got off my chest and we got off our chest what we wanted to talk about there. Let's get back into this. Let's quickly cover South Korea finally getting the Nintendo eShop for the Switch.
Yeah, so apparently South Korea, the Nintendo Switch eShop is now available for use with the South Korea region Nintendo accounts. Now, apparently this is similar to the Hong Kong eShop, where you buy the game from the Nintendo website, which then gives you a code to redeem on the eShop itself for download.
That just seems a little redundant.
I think it's because of like Korean laws, but I actually don't know which laws they would be referring to.
So basically anything they buy on the eShop, it's digital, but you have to go through like an extra hoop just to get your shit.
Yeah.
Now, I do have a question, though. Why wasn't this available to them sooner?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I also think that, I think maybe it's because they had to actually get the codes together for that. I think that's quite possible. I do think it is odd, given that the Switch has been out for a little over a year now.
Right.
And if I'm honest with you, I also see it as kind of... I'd be curious as to whether these codes are one-time use or not.
I would think so.
If I buy a Switch, then my Switch gets bricked or something, because I've heard that apparently if you use certain third-party accessories, your Switch gets bricked.
Right.
Whether that's true or not. If I go out and buy another Switch, am I fucked as far as the eShop goes? Will I have to rebuy everything that I've already purchased?
See, I think what Nintendo should do, if they're not already doing this, is anything you buy digitally, like on PlayStation and Xbox, it should be attached to your account, so that if you do need another console, as long as you can log into your account, you can download it all again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it is for the North American eShop, but I'm not certain. I know that for the PlayStation, I don't know how it is for the Xbox, but the PlayStation actually has a library app that, it's everything you've purchased from the store.
Right, yeah.
Will be under your purchased stuff.
The Xbox is similar, but it's there's a different way to get to it.
Okay.
So, that's good for South Korea. I'm sorry it took you guys so long to get the Nintendo eShop, but hey, you're finally getting it. So,
Play Celeste. It's good.
Yeah, good.
I don't think we have any South Korean fans, but if we do, play Celeste. It's really good.
Well, you never know who's actually watching.
That's true. That's true.
So, what do we got here? What's the next thing we're going to talk about? Fucking Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, so apparently Chrono Trigger is getting a patch. Where it says here... So, I think Sean and I talked about Chrono Trigger on one of the previous episodes.
Yeah, we covered about, the PC version and how it's the shitty phone version.
Yeah. Well, it says here that, according to Square Enix, they released a statement that says, thanks for all of your feedback. We've been working on addressing the issues that you've raised, and we'll be releasing a number of patches over the coming months to continue supporting the game. We're aiming to release the first of these patches in the first half of April, and the biggest change will be an option to switch between the current high-res graphics and the original graphical style of Chrono Trigger. There will also be a full changelog when that patch is released. It says here that as Chrono Trigger is going to receive patches over the coming months, Square Enix is going to extend the limited editions availability until April 30th at, let's see here, what is that? Is it BST?
PST.
5 p.m. April 30th BST, 9 a.m. April 30th PDT.
So, PDT, that's Pacific time.
Pacific Daylight, and BST is British Summertime, I believe.
Yeah, you're right, because that's not, that's a 6-hour difference.
Yeah.
Or no, an 8-hour difference. So, so that would be 12 p.m. Eastern time. 1 p.m. for you.
Huh, okay. Because my thing is, I'm curious as to whether this fixes the menus and the way the menus look. Because I haven't played the game enough to notice or care about the sprite alterations.
Me neither.
I do think that it's probably better to give players the option, because I know Chrono Trigger is like... Did I ever discuss the concept of the sacred cow with you?
No.
Where it's like... Okay, well, the sacred cow is like an idea from... It's based on the idea from Hinduism, where it's like, you don't fuck with cows, because cows are an incarnation of a certain deity.
Which means they don't eat burgers, they don't eat steak or roast beef or any of that
they
shit.
don't even... I don't even think they, like...
I don't think they eat red meat.
No, I don't think they eat red meat. I don't know, I'd have to look it up. But I know that, their thing is like, we don't fuck with cows, because cows are sacred. Well, and, if you're, like... Basically, it's something that if you fuck with it, you're going to be universally vindicated for doing. So, or you're going to be hated for doing. So, like, fucking with Chrono Trigger will make an enemy out of a lot of people. So I think... excuse me.
Will make you an enemy to a lot of people.
That they're doing this.
I agree.
I hope it changes the menus back, and I'm curious to see what the rest of the patches do.
Quite honestly, what they should have done in the first place is put both versions of the game on Steam and let people buy the complete version they want, whether it be the old SNES version or the more upgraded resolution version.
Honestly, I don't see why they couldn't have just posted the updated version and then have the SNES version be an option. Because I know was it Castlevania Dracula X that did that? I can't remember what game it was that did it, where it's basically like you can play with the new graphics or the old graphics. I think a lot of like re-releases do that. Mega Man Powered Up does that. But anyway, so I'm curious to see where this goes. I kind of wish personally that they had I don't know if the PC and mobile versions add the additional content from the DS version. I certainly hope that they patch it in if not. Because I think there's like an extra dungeon and a bonus boss. But anyway, yeah, so I'm glad to see that they're patching it up, but I honestly don't care because I'm not going to buy Chrono Trigger again. I own it like 5 times over now.
I have it on my SNES Mini, so I don't need to buy it.
So should we talk about The Lost Child?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, The Lost Child, if you remember a few episodes ago when we shit all over the NIS America press conference, that was one of the games they showed off, one of the reveal trailers. We didn't give a single fuck about this game.
Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The Lost Child has, in fact, been found. I thought that was good. That was a really lame pun.
I think, in fact, that was the game that while they were showing the trailer, we were talking about pizza.
Yeah, I think it was, which is kind of ironic, because now I'm actually pretty interested.
Right?
So it says here that in September of last year, Nippon Ichi America confirmed that it would release The Lost Child outside of Japan, and a Switch version was confirmed in February of this year. That was during the press release. Now we have a release date. The game will appear on Switch, PS4, and Vita on June 19th, 2018 in North America, and June 22nd, 2018 in Europe. The game will be available both digitally and physically. However, the Vita version will only be available physically. And then there's a bunch of screenshots. So, I gotta be honest, man. I'm looking at this, and it kind of reminds me of the RPG elements are like an old school dungeon crawler with what appears to be some kind of like Shin Megami Tensei party building system, and then VN elements for the story. So, I mean, I'm a pretty big fan of SMT that has me at fucking diamond status. Like, I intend to buy this when it comes out now.
I mean...
Or at the very least, I will... If there's a demo available, I'll at least try the demo and give my thoughts on it. But, like, chances are pretty good I'll end up buying it.
That original trailer they showed us back in February was absolute trash.
Oh, it was terrible. It didn't show us anything.
This makes the game look like an actual game and something that is actually interesting to RPG and JRPG and anime fans. Now, I'm kind of maybe I'm not surprised, but at the same time, maybe I am. Kind of surprised that the Vita's still being supported by these kinds of games, because it's fucking 2018, man. The Vita should have been dead at least 2 years ago, in my opinion. And I mean completely dead. So yeah, basically, you can see here some of the screenshots. They show what looks like the party in a battle. One here looks like the part of a map screen. A couple screens here of like the menu screens, and a couple screens during like the story segments. But I think this is interesting, and definitely paying attention to this game now.
I'm back. Sorry, I was using the washroom. So,
Dude, I thought you dropped because you went silent.
yeah, well, I really had to pee. So, I mean, either you could have heard me pissing, or I could mute myself and step away for a moment. But
yeah, that
anyway,
would have.
so what happened was, what you said about the Vita, I agree with, but also the Vita is like really popular in Japan. It's a huge deal. So I guess the thing is that they're probably like, oh, we have it localized, we might as well put it on the Vita, because it's not going to be much, if any, of an additional cost.
Right, but I mean, the Vita is so fucking limited. Like, companies shouldn't have to be restricted to making games look nowhere near as good as they could.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's why I'm saying I think the Vita should just die. I have nothing against the Vita. I still own mine. There are still
Honestly,
some games I want on it, but I think it just die.
The Vita has the same problem that the Sega Saturn did, in that the Sega Saturn launched way too early. I don't think the Vita launched too early. What happened was the Saturn launched too early, and then it had support cut off before it could take off.
Right, because they were trying to keep up. Sega was trying to keep up with Sony and Nintendo.
Yeah, which realistically they didn't really have to do. But with the Vita, it's kind of like the same story, where it's like, let me think. I bought my Vita in 2012 when it came out. The Vita didn't really get off the ground until 2013. And by that point, it had already kind of cemented itself as a JRPG machine and nothing else.
Right.
So I think the issue with the Vita is that, like, they shouldn't have put the Vita on life support in the West. They should have either A, kept pushing for better releases of, like, because the first party games that were released for the Vita were almost universally terrible. Like, I don't know if you've played, like, the Uncharted Vita game. I didn't think it was that good.
I did, and I didn't finish beating it because I thought that game was just a pain in the ass to play.
Yeah, it wasn't that good. They tried stuff with, like, shooters like Unit 13 and Black Ops Declassified. Those didn't really pan it. Unit 13's not bad, but I wouldn't pay $40 for it.
And Borderlands, that was on there too.
Borderlands was on that too. The thing about the Vita is that, like, I feel like they pulled the plug too early.
Yeah, I just don't think Sony had any faith in it, to be honest.
No.
Not nearly like they did with the PSP.
Which is funny, because, like, if you look at the Vita... Because okay. Take this with a grain of salt, because I fucking love my Vita. I don't have a Vita anymore. But when I had one, I would tout that thing, like, more than my DS. So the thing about the Vita is that the Vita has a very small but very ravenous fan base. Like, everybody who has a Vita generally likes the Vita. It's just a problem of getting people to buy in, because most people will see the Vita as that thing that plays anime games.
Right.
So I think it's really a problem. Sony's, like, not marketing it. They never really talked about it that much. Like, they didn't really support it. They pulled the plug too early.
Developers, like, pretty much killed it.
Developers themselves kind of killed it after a while. Because the Vita basically became... there are three genres that are at play on the Vita. You've got your JRPGs, your hunting, your Monster Hunter clones, and your visual novels. Those are the three things that are on the Vita.
And well, for a while it had a lot of indie games too.
Yeah, for a while it had a lot of indie games. Not so much anymore. But, like, the weird part about the Vita fan base is that the Vita has... almost anyone who owns a Vita collects games for the Vita. Like, Vita collecting is very popular.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, I collect PS4 games. I did not and will not collect Vita games because, like, some of them are next to impossible to find because people really like their fucking Vita games.
Well,
And it's like the
speaking
weirdest shit too. Like apparently, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for the Vita is like really rare.
speaking of Vita games and something that maybe could have been put on the Vita, if this was released years ago. Today, the internet broke when Spyro the Dragon, the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, was officially revealed for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One with its very first trailer and a release date of September 21st, 2018. Now, back in February, we talked about a rumor that the game was going to be revealed in March, which, of course, now we know did not happen. It has been revealed a week later, so I don't know what held up the reveal. Maybe they just wanted to wait a little longer, polish up the trailer or whatever. The rumor did say that if it was true, it would more than likely release in September, and they were correct. So,
fuck, man, that's crazy.
So the new collection called Spyro Reignited Trilogy gets leaked, and if this fucking thing would stop popping up. French version.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The French version, the announcement trailer went up earlier than expected, which means it got revealed. It got leaked yesterday. It was revealed for the PS4 and the Xbox One. And it says, here are more details from the design director, Toby Schlatt. Of Toys for Bob
at the PlayStation Store. But I don't know, because, anyway. Basically, he said that the company that he works for, which is called Toys for Bob, has admired the original Spyro trilogy since before Skylanders. They claimed that the game was an inspiration to them in all regards, including level design, controls, art style, and humor, music, and the sense of discovery. Quote, there's no getting around the fact that the feisty purple dragon is now one of the most important and influential heroes in 3D platformer history. 20 years later, we are deeply honored to have the responsibility of remastering Insomniac's historic trilogy, and our most powerful motivator is knowing how important Spyro is to millions of passionate fans around the globe. He also said that remastering a classic is a unique undertaking because you're starting with a game that already has proven time-tested fun. The real challenge is how to remaster a beloved classic in a way that is true to the spirit and feel of the original while maximizing fidelity, which includes art, animation, visual effects, sound effects, music, and controls, and integrating quality of life improvements that most modern players expect, such as analog stick, camera control, and autosave system, fast travel options, and things like that. He said that fans are very passionate about the original trilogy, and they're approaching the development of this with reverence, a deep respect for all the decisions that went into making the original 3 games. In the interest of getting the feel right, one of the first 3 things we agreed upon internally was that Spyro's original movement metrics, that is like his speed and acceleration for all of his movement, should be matched as closely as humanly possible. In a similar vein, an authentic recreation of the platforming gameplay throughout the expansive and enchanted levels of the original trilogy would require the dimensions and collision details of the world's geometry to come very close to matching the originals. He also said that in the interest of recapturing the enchanted details from the classic trilogy in fine detail, the programming team set out to magically slurp inspiration directly from the original games. Spyroscope was born. This internally developed tool sends fairies into the original games to convert game details into a format that designers can easily interpret, allowing for extremely accurate object placement and motion. Ultimately, we were also able to leverage many of the original assets, including level models, level collision, animated objects, character models, music, game text, and game sounds through a combination of other in-house tools and a few payments to moneybags. The final thing that he had to say was that they apparently this is his 20th anniversary, which I did not know. And he said that each day they're working hard to fill out the Dragon Realms, Avalar, and the Forgotten Realms with all the magic that players remember. We can't wait to share it with you all later this year. Stay posted for more updates. In the meantime, we hope you don't have too much trouble with the trolley. Spyro Reignited Trilogy releases in September of this year for PS4 and Xbox One. More information will be revealed as it comes available. Now, what do you think about this?
Personally, I love it. I never played the Spyro games back in the day. Like I only played the demos that were on the Crash Bandicoot games, and that's about as much as I've ever played of them. And the demos that were on the PlayStation Underground demo discs, for anyone who remembers those from back in the day. And for the little bit I played, I absolutely loved the game. And now, do you think this is coincidence that Crash Bandicoot was remastered and released 20 years since it first came out, and now Spyro is the same deal? Or do you think they had this planned all along?
I really don't know. I think that, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's a little too good to be true, if you think it is one. Because, like, one thing I've noticed this generation, as far as gaming is concerned, is that we seem to be very obsessed with the idea of throwbacks. Like, okay, for example, like indie games tend to do that very like fake retro style,
right?
Which people like eat up.
Especially YouTubers.
And I've noticed that like the Nintendo Switch in particular seems to take, at least in its Kirby, Mario, and Zelda, a lot of cues from older games. Like for Breath of the Wild, for example, I've noticed almost a good chunk of it takes cues from the first Zelda game, and Zelda 2. For Mario, it's 64 and Sunshine. For Kirby, it's like the first Kirby game, or the first two Kirby games, like the Kirby's Adventure and Return to Dreamland. So like, I'm not really surprised if Sony is like, hey guys, let's make some collections for Crash and Spyro. I do think that like picking out people who are very invested and big fans of the source material is an excellent idea, because they're going to treat it with respect.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like I think that from what this interview has to say, like this Siliconera interview, this guy that is directing this seems like he has his shit together, and like he really likes the original trilogy. So I don't think we're going to be seeing anything too out of the ordinary. Like I think this has the potential to be as good as, if not better than, the Crash trilogy.
I think it's going to be better, just because the games are a little bit bigger. And they're not exactly open world games, but they feel more like an open world game.
That's fair. I gotta be honest with you, I didn't really get into Spyro growing up. I tried.
I mean, I'm the same way. The only Spyro game I actually played to completion was the one that came out on Xbox 360 back in like 2006.
Oh god, I know the one you're talking about, but I've never touched it.
Yeah, it was a decent game, but I thought, like I said, even though I didn't actually play the originals, outside of the demos, I think the originals were better.
Yeah, like I didn't play any of them. I did actually look at Hellfire Comms did, I think it might have been for Extra Life or Child's Play, but they did a Sony-thon, like a marathon of first-party Sony games. And when I was watching their playthrough of Spyro, I thought Spyro was actually, like, kind of underwhelming. But I'm curious to see how they're going to remaster it and make these quality-of-life changes. And, I'd really like to try it for myself, because playing something and watching something are two completely different experiences 90% of the time.
And I will officially announce, now that this game is official, this year, this November, for Extra Life 2018, I will be featuring the Spyro the Dragon trilogy. There's an early announcement from the Rose for Extra Life. Look forward to that in about 7 months.
I'll probably help with co-commentating again, unless I, die in the middle of winter.
So,
Canadian winter's brutal, dude.
With that being said, I think we did a pretty decent part 1 of episode 12 today.
Considering we were trying to get back in the swing of things, yeah, I agree.
Now, I didn't do my plugs in the beginning of the episode. That just goes to show how rusty I am. So I'm going to throw my plugs in now. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. All of my links are in the description box down below, as well as following Black Sakura on Facebook and Twitter. Links are in the description box. Follow Erin Fitzgerald, the voice actress who I'm a friend with. She also has YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. Now, she hasn't really been streaming as often usually lately because I guess she's finally been picking up with her work, which is good. However, with Twitch, I have finally reached affiliate status. However, that doesn't mean that if you come across these videos and you come across my Twitch stream, I would still love to have you as a follower. Or if you want to go one step further, you can subscribe to my Twitch channel now, especially if you have Twitch Prime, because if you have Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime. That being said, I think this was a good episode so far, and we have plenty of news to go through. We're just scratching the surface today. I'll give you a little sneak peek into what we're going to talk about next time. We are going to talk about Rocket League collaborating with WWE for WrestleMania 34. They're going to be releasing exclusive items, and the only way to get those exclusive items is by watching WrestleMania. We'll be going into that. Shaq Fu, we're going to talk a little bit about that. A release date for Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn, is finally out there. We're going to talk a little bit about Phantasy Star Online 2. Cloud service, finally available for Nintendo Switch. Still only available in Japan, though.
Yeah, that sucks.
We will talk about Broly and Bardock in Dragon Ball FighterZ and what we think of those characters. We are going to have a Kirby Star Allies review and hopefully a Ready Player One review, as well as other news and rumors and whatnot. Only available right here on the Game Corner podcast. With that being said, for Cypher, my name is The Rose for episode 12, part number 1. Until next time, we'll catch your ass down the road.